Hello everybody, I'm Benjamin Wheeler, and yet again, for the umpteenth time, I have with me special guest Adam Price. Adam, how are you doing?
I'm doing excellent, Ben. Thank you so much.
No problem. Glad to have you here, Adam. And why do we have you here?
Well, everyone, it's time to welcome the Battle for Zendikar set review. Zendikar is at war, and the citizens of Zendikar, its tribal allies, have put aside their petty differences to defeat the colorless Eldrazi threat. And while these colossal space squids may be devoid of any color, this set is kind of devoid of anything that me and Ben really like, but we're going to talk about it anyway.
That pretty much sums up our general feeling of the set. Really well put, quite eloquent, if I can say so myself. This is an odd one. I mean, we're coming off of Khan's Block, which had a lot of gold. You know, we can't expect them to give us Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time in every single set. I mean, even Magic Origins ended up turning out, supplying us with a good heap of cards. But here we have a different kind of brew. We have Battle for Zendikar giving us a bunch of cards that we functionally already had. These are just duplicates of them. And what I mean by that is there aren't a lot of individually exciting cards. There aren't any cards that are kind of just like, oh wow, we've never really seen this effect before, or oh wow, this is an improvement on an old effect. They're just cards that we've seen before, and we'll gladly take more of them, but we're not jumping for joy. So like the dual lands, we're excited to... I mean, you're excited for new duels, right?
Yeah, of course. I think for me, Battle for Zendikar is very much a set that, like, Wizards of the Coast approached, and they were like, hey, we want money. So much money. And they were like, hey, let's throw these lands in here. We're going to make man lands. And we got this fucking cool set of, like, wicked awesome rarity kind of cards. And all that's awesome. But we still have to review the set. And those are sort of on the sidelines, you know? But I think overall the set is good. I think that there's some elements of the set that are interesting, and there's definitely some cards we're talking about. But from a larger perspective, Battle for Zendikar is not really bringing anything super new to the table.
Yeah, it kind of feels like a clickbait the set, where it pulls you in with, as you said, this kind of like secret treasures kind of rarity. Cards that people are obviously looking for, the fetch lands, and the man lands, and Eldrazi, so you're going to get the EDH players in on this, as opposed to the Khan's approach of how can we get people to buy this? Oh, let's reprint fetch lands, have all these cool, powerful wedge cards, and low-cost cards that EDH players can play. They kind of went the opposite direction of let's make everything big, disgustingly overpriced, and kind of dorky and useless. But that's enough kind of shifting around in our seat. Let's jump into the review, because like Adam said, there are cards in here that we like, and overall I think we both find it to be, well, a good set.
Yeah, I would say that. What's the first card we're going to talk about, Ben?
So we're going to go through the set Wooburg style, so white, blue, black, red, green, and then I believe we're going to tackle the colorless, multicolor, then land cards. But to get everything out of the way in good old Battle for Zendikar fashion, we're going to start with clickbaity things that'll get people interested, such as reviewing the Planeswalkers. So let's start off with Gideon, Ally of Zendikar. It's a Planeswalker, it's Gideon, it costs 2 and 2 white for 4 loyalty, +1 until end of turn. Gideon becomes a 5/5 human soldier ally that's indestructible and still a Planeswalker, and then prevent all damage that would be dealt to him this turn. 0, you get a 2/2 white knight ally creature token. That is so hilarious. But we'll touch on that later. And then -4, you get an emblem that says creatures you control get +1/+1. So you can... I think this card is insane. I think this card is so great. It's right on the curve. While you can't +1 him immediately, playing him out, making an ally to block right away is great, and sometimes if you just need that like 4-mana Glorious Anthem that they can never touch, that's not too shabby.
Yeah, this card, I mean, I was super surprised that they would print a Kytheon right after them printing a Kytheon, you know?
Oh, he's grown up now.
It's not his slave name anymore.
Yeah.
No, this card is stone cold ridiculous. I love the 0. Gives you something to do right off the bat. You getting a dude to defend your Gideon. And then it's huge, too. You get a 2/2 for 0. That's sizable. And then he turns into a 5/5. On the next turn, I'm assuming you kind of want to throw him into active battle mode, because at that point he can swing. And then he's indestructible. He has all damage prevented to him. And I think to me, the sort of like the quote-unquote ultimate, the -4 is just like hot gravy on like curded cheese and chips, you know?
It's the gravy on the cake. You get this option to just go fast immediately. You get to just stack it all on him. Like, Gideon can carry the game on his back if he needs to. He can spread out easily. And if you've already spread out and you don't really need to be cracking in for 5, well, maybe you just make all your guys bigger for the rest of the game. I wouldn't play him in control-based decks. I mean, maybe even then he's fine, because being able to pump out free tokens is nice, and being able to take down opposing planeswalkers is nice, but really, I'm just going to be throwing this guy in White Weenie.
I personally think this card is insanely versatile. Now, as someone like you are like super into putting this card in White Weenie, I respect the hell out of that. I think this card can go in a lot of other decks just because it has a very reasonable CMC. 4 CMC is kind of like... It's kind of a curve topper in Highlander, in my opinion. I think 4 is kind of like where most decks sort of end and where other decks sort of take flight. But the point is, it's like a very competitive CMC. Its CMC is also super reasonable in terms of its like color committance. So, no, I think this card just goes in a bunch of different decks. It's just good. It's like there's not really much you can say about this card other than it's like very, very playable.
It's probably one of the best cards in this set, if not the best. Nothing's really jumping out at me. I mean, there are a couple of cards, but I just feel that's my personal bias towards those archetypes. But this guy just seems like all around the most solid card.
Yeah, I think that Gideon, ally of Zendikar, is probably... I'm ready to be wrong on this one, but I think I'm willing to say this is one of the stronger planeswalkers they've ever printed. And there's a really it's hard to sort of like come up to the other, like obviously Jace, you know, and like Liliana the Veil and stuff like that. But I think this card's really insanely strong. And prick makes 2/2 White Knight allies, man. That's like Flavor City.
It's just so funny.
I think that might have not have been a mistake. Wizards of the Coast, just like, oh.
That had to slip under the radar. They were just like, okay, it's Gideon. He's gonna make night tokens. That's fine. And then someone's like, how about we make him produce allies for synergy's sake? They're like, oh, sure, that's perfect. Night allies, like, we've had those before. That's cool. Ship it off. And then, obviously, like, they didn't even talk about the color of the tokens he'd make, because what other kind of color tokens is he going to make? And so, just finally, when it came to, like, writing the words on the card, they're like, oh, well, too late now. Here we go.
I'm excited to play this card in a number of decks, and I'm sure that our listeners are excited to play this card in a number of decks. For me, I probably want to abuse this. I probably want to play it with some sort of smokestack or something like that. You know, I think this card is excellent. I'm really looking forward to seeing it in Highlander.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I mean, throwing him in something like a stacks variant is perfectly fine. I'm struggling to find lists. Like, obviously, you don't want to run them in combo lists, but that's just the matter of how those decks are built. But we can stick on this guy for ages and just talk about how many white allies he puts into play. Let's move on to somebody a little more exciting. Or not exciting, but at least more... When I read into the flavor behind her and like the art, I gained a lot more respect. I'm talking about Kiora, Master of the Depths. Now, I'm a blue mage, I'm a green mage. I like them together. Like,
you're a colorless mage too. This thing is just your jam.
Yeah, I just like this card a lot. I mean, I'm a sucker for a Kiora. So, 2, a green and a blue, 4 loyalty, +1, untap up to 1 target creature, and up to 1 target land. So, that's pretty alright. -2, reveal the top 4 cards of your deck. You could put a creature card and a land card from among them into your hand, and the rest go to the bin. So, potential -2, you draw 2 cards. You fill up your graveyard for Treasure Cruise or Dig Through Time, which you're going to play because you're playing Kiora, or because you're playing blue. And -8, one of my favorite ultimates in the game. I don't know how realistic it is to getting there, but you get an emblem with whenever a creature ETB is under your control, you can have that creature fight target creature. So you get that emblem, and then after getting that emblem, you get 3 8/8 octopus creatures into play. So when you use it, you get the emblem, these 3 8/8s come in, they wrath their board, and then you just have 3 8/8s. And then any other creature you play following that can scrap with other people if they want to.
To me, that ultimate is very succinctly what I'm looking for when I'm looking for a Planeswalker ultimate. I think that is such a unique effect. It's like a lure effect, and it also gives you just like 3 huge octopi like at the same time, which is super rad. It has a very ultimate feeling to it, which I think I respect from a game design perspective. And then, so in looking at the card otherwise, like she starts at 4, which is all right. It's not obviously it's nowhere close to her ultimate, but never judge Planeswalker by their ultimates. But then her +1, really neat, very useful in deckless running these colors, just generally. I think the other thing I'd really like to say and see her in, and I know I've talked to you about this, Ben, but stasis, like those 2 things are like prime stasis. You always want to be untapping lands, and you always want to be untapping creatures. So that's a big deal. And then her -2, solid value. And then I think it's kind of cool from a flavor perspective. We talked about her having Thassa's Bident, right?
Yeah, that's... So, what I was getting on before as we led into this, in addition to the ultimate just being really flavorful and just so cool to see, and her abilities being very blue-green. So, the art, Kiora is holding Thassa's Bident. Now, Kiora was on Theros, and I might get outlawed by some people on this, but from what I read, Kiora was like fighting Thassa, or Thassa was pissed off at Kiora, and I just hate to see 2 of my homegirls fighting, just like, that's some bad blood right there, and we want to squash that beef. But it didn't happen, and Kiora was kind of like, hey, I bet you can't hit me, idiot, and Thassa's like, that sounds like a challenge. So Thassa threw her Bident to try and hit Kiora, and then Kiora, like, planeswalked away, stealing the Bident as it was, like, coming towards her or something.
Yeah.
So that's dank. And now she's just chilling in Zendikar with all the merfolk that worship her.
I love that.
Yeah, it's just so awesome.
It's wicked. This card is wicked. Overall, I think this card is really strong. It goes in a variety of lists. Like I said, I think this card goes in stasis like tomorrow. When the set goes out, I want to see that green-blue stasis list. Yeah, what are your overall thoughts of this card, Ben?
My big problem with it is that it doesn't protect itself without... you have to have something else to block for it, basically.
Yeah.
Or you have to untap... Like, it's nice that you can tap creatures down to cast her, and then you can untap the creatures with her +1, and then you're left with this Kiora in play, and she's kind of defended. It's asking much to have something else tacked on to help get her to survive, but her starting loyalty is pretty high that you can start getting value off. I like, obviously, that she untaps creatures and lands. She fits in all the kind of weird niche combo decks that run green and blue that are usually reliant on tapping creatures. I wouldn't be against trying her out in a blue variant of Cradlehoof, which has appeared in the past. but kind of fell out of favor for Kessig Wolfrun being, Kessig Wolfrun, and Rurik Thar being, Rurik Thar. But she untaps Cradle, she untaps a Dork, that's nice. Being able to draw into more stuff, that's also nice. And then obviously the ultimate, it's the ultimate. I like her, I think she's flexible.
There's one thing I did want to touch on. How do you feel about Kiora in a Planeswalkers list? Because her +1 may miss on one of those things, her -2 may potentially miss on one of those things, and her -8, while exceptional in the fact that you get 3 8/8s, it's like hard to judge the value if the first 2 effects aren't going to be versatile and useful. So in a Planeswalkers list, do you think that Kiora is going to be one of the stronger ones? She has a competitive CMC.
She's not hanging out with any wildfires, in my opinion. The big thing for Planeswalkers in those lists is that usually they have to either protect themselves or they have to be named Jace. And she's not named Jace, and she doesn't really protect herself. Those decks can run creatures, but usually not that many. The -2, you're probably going to brick, and like we said in the past, don't judge Planeswalkers based on their ultimate. She has her spots, don't get me wrong, and people feel free to experiment with her in a variety of lists, but she's not going to be accomplishing the same things that the OG Kiora, which seems weird because that was like less than a year ago. Or, well, no, it was more than a year ago, but it was only a couple years ago. She doesn't have that kind of controlling feel to her. Like, she needs other things. But we've stuck around on Kiora for quite some time. Let's see if we can go deeper into the set and find Nixilis Reignited.
Nice.
5 mana, 5 loyalty, 3 in double black, Planeswalker Nixilis. I don't know for a fact if the other Nixilis is Planeswalker type Nixilis. I imagine he is, but
he is, yeah.
I don't care for that card that much, so I'm going to ignore that. +1, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Well, that's nice. He can start off with 6 loyalty. You're up a card, losing 1 life. That doesn't matter that much. And -3, destroy a creature. Any creature, doesn't matter. Can be black, can be tapped, untapped. It can be a zombie, a werewolf, or whatever the other creature type is on Victim of the Night. It's just destroy a creature.
Vampire.
Get rid of it. Vampire, thank you. And then his ultimate, which he starts out at 5, possibly 6. Target opponent gets an emblem with whenever a player draws a card, they lose 2 life. Which, that's an ultimate that it doesn't seem like it does anything right away.
Wait, sorry. The way you read that, or at least the way I understood you read that, target opponent gets an emblem with whenever a player draws a card, you lose 2 life.
Yes. So they get the emblem that says whenever you draw any card, or whenever they draw a card, for each card they are drawing, they lose 2 life. So it's like this Underworld Dreams just set to turbo.
Get fucked, Brainstorm.
Pretty much. And this is one of the, Liliana aside, and maybe the shameful years that I've ran Sorin Markov, this is probably my favorite black Planeswalker. Or one of them.
Let's talk about the CMC first, because this is the most important part of this card. Do you think that 5 double black CMC on a Planeswalker is going to be relevant in the list that want to run this guy? This, to me, and don't get me wrong, I like this card, but I think one of the biggest barriers this card has is that 5 CMC.
Like we said before, 4 is kind of the point where you really want to be. And there are plenty of playable 5-mana Planeswalkers. Stuff like Gideon, stuff like Tamiyo. Liliana Vess has even had some time in the sun, even though I don't know about her. But anyways, 5 isn't the end of the world. But for some decks it is. So you're not going to want this guy in every single black deck. You're not going to play him in a black aggressive deck or a black base aggressive deck. I wouldn't run him in Jund aggro. I wouldn't even run him in Jund midrange. But no. I like this guy in stacks because black is getting more and more cards that make it fine to be not just a light splash. Because for a 5-color stacks variant or a 4-color stacks variant, there are obviously colors that have priority. You want your red for your wildfires, your white for your Armageddon, your blue because it's blue. And black has always kind of been in that weird position of, it gives us access to no real good Planeswalkers except for Tezzeret, Agent of Bolest. That guy's insane. gives you access to cards like the Abyss, which is fantastic. Like, that's one of the reasons why you'd play black in stacks, outside of maybe tutors, if you're on that kind of list.
Black traditionally gives you things that you don't get in any other colors. Black does, like, exceptionally well. It just doesn't do it consistently. And to me, Nixilis Reignited is an extension of that does exceptional well, but inconsistently.
Yeah, him being at 5 kind of contributes to that, I think, because by himself, sure, he can come down and destroy a creature, then he's at 2 loyalty, and it's only 1 creature. Like, he's easily burned out, or they have other things that can, deal with him, like other creatures. So I think you need to have other things going on. You have to have cast a Supreme Verdict before, or cast, like, dropped an Abyss, or you have an Ensnaring Bridge going on, something like that. Or you've played out other Planeswalkers prior, which is nice because he's at that curve where he follows up nicely using your mana properly from, like, a Garruk Relentless or a Wrath of God effect. And then you can follow from him into a Wildfire. So he's on the chain, and he draws you cards, which is great. He is essentially a form of spot removal, which I've played Vraska in these stacks lists, and she's not that great. Her +1 doesn't do anything, and while, yeah, you can -3, I believe it is, to destroy things other than creatures.
Permanents.
Yeah. Usually you're doing that to destroy creatures, right? To clear the board and then have this Planeswalker to start ticking up. And Ob kind of fills that role, but I just find him better. Like, I'm even surprised that I am saying this, that I am like I feel that I'm the one that's really rooting for this guy to see play.
Yeah, okay, I definitely agree, though. I think that there's a couple downsides to this card, but there's also a couple upsides. First of all, I mean, we can talk about the CMC as much as we want. I think it's overall fine. You're paying 5 to get someone who's already close to his max effect. You're also getting free cards, pretty much. Well, I mean, you paid 5 for it, but free cards consistently over the period of multiple turns. And this is part of, like, something that I mentioned earlier about exceptional black effects. Like, you're getting... I mean, black draws cards almost better than blue draws cards at some point. It just doesn't do it consistently. And that's, like, part of that. You drawing a card and losing 1 life for, like, a +1. That's insane. Like, I have to like this card based on that.
Like, there isn't a blue Phyrexian Arena.
No.
I mean, you have Curse Portal, and of course black doesn't have access to Recall or anything, but blue doesn't have access to Arena, Necro, Bargain... Even stuff like Sign in Blood and Night's Whisper, right? Like, there aren't any blue cards that are 2 mana draw 2 without some kind of real drawback. 2 life, not that big of a drawback.
No, exactly. So it's an exceptional circumstance, while not something that's consistent, is also very strong. To me, I have a feeling that you're right. I have a feeling that this is a card that's very board state dependent, because I don't want to play Ob Nixilis and then -3 Ob Nixilis. I feel like that puts him within burn range, and that really puts him in a position where he's not going to be useful at all. He's just like, now I've got this guy that's at 2, and I've maybe dealt with one of their threats, and, like, it puts you in an odd block state or something. I don't know. I think that is a very strong effect, but I think that this guy, like you said, goes in lists that are running stacks elements, or that goes in lists that are already running control elements. His ultimate's kind of nuts against blue decks. Honestly, though, I don't think we should really even be paying too much attention to this ultimate, because I feel like this ultimate has more of a commander applicability. It just happens to be just a good card otherwise. I mean, don't get me wrong, his ultimate can win you the game, and it's decent, but, like, his +1 and his -3 are good enough on its own that you don't really need to pay any attention to it.
His ultimate is... I honestly think that if you resolve his ultimate, you're winning that game. The thing is, if you keep him around long enough to use both his plus and -3, you're also winning that game.
Exactly.
So it's probably better to go with the first motion, unless you're against something like High Tide, and then, well, nice deck, buddy. I don't want to stay on this guy for too long, because we've already spent 20 minutes or so on Planeswalkers, because, well, guess what? They're probably the best cards in the set. But, so yeah, I don't want to play him on an empty board, but the thing is, I don't think you have to, or if you've constructed your deck in a way that supplements these 5-mana planeswalkers like Gideon, Tameo, and this guy, which I think are the 5-mana walkers you would play in a stacks list. Like, I'd still play this guy if I'm playing mono black stacks, but still, these guys are all great after you've done something for 4 mana. Or after you've made some kind of play that they have to deal with. And then he can have 2 modes. If what you've done before has successfully either thwarted what they're trying to do, or has at least slowed them down, you +1. If it hasn't done it well enough, then you -3. And then you can start building up from there.
I love the fact that he's got this, like, cheeky grin on his face. I'm also just excited that from a lore perspective, they're like, yeah, Nixilis, let's throw this guy some love. Let's give him his Spock back. Zendikar, battle.
Zendikar, baby! I'm always excited when they start... I mean, this guy, there is another version of him, but I'm excited when they print new Planeswalkers, air quotes, that are actually playable.
Exactly.
The other guy might be fine, like he makes a demon, but we're not here to discuss this. And in fact, I think we're done discussing this guy.
Next.
Now we're moving into the white cards, and we're moving into the other cards, the meat and potatoes of this set. And I do want to restate that we don't support every single card in here. There are a variety of cards that you guys may have noticed when you've watched prior set reviews. We have the put it in coach status, where, oh my god, this card is fantastic, like, I can't believe they printed this, or I'm so glad they printed this, or, oh look, another Savannah Lion, well, I'm not going to play this. Then there's the viable/niche category, where, like, it's strong enough, but the effect is a little bit narrow, or the slot is super competitive. And so maybe you're not going to be playing that guy, but it's worth considering, or it's worth testing out. And then you have the trap cards. And I'm not talking Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm talking, these are cards that look like they're cool, or they've been hyped up, or like some Wizards employee has been circle jerking with another Wizards employee about, like, oh, this is going to revolutionize Standard. And you're like, oh, maybe he's right. It is Mythic. I should buy Magic cards. Like, there's that category. So you're going to see cards from all walks of life here. And we're going to be sure to cover which is which, but just be warned, because for the next card we have, Amaria Shepherd, she's not exactly what I would call playable.
All right, before we start this critique, though, on this card and the rest of the cards in the set, the real cards, not just the Planeswalkers that are obviously pretty good, what were those categories again? The put me in coach category, so, like, auto includes, what was the second category?
Viable/niche category.
Niche, nice. And then the trap cards.
Yeah.
So those are the 3 things that we sort of are going to base these cards around.
Yeah.
Amaria Shepherd. Ben, take it away.
This one, I'm pretty sure, is a trap. And see, this is the thing about trap cards, because there is such a high chance to be wrong on these. If I'm wrong on, or if we're wrong on, like, the viable/niche cards, and they just turn out to be, like, all-stars, that's fine. Like, I'm very willing to be like, oh, what do you know? That card's actually just a hell of a lot better than I thought it was. Well, there we go. But then there are these cards that have effects that are super powerful, and it's really difficult to judge. But then all these factors start queuing in. You're like, oh, okay, go have fun in Commander. So Amaria Shepherd is a 7-mana angel that should already send off alarms, that has flying, and it's a 4/4. So not the biggest body, evasion's nice, but 7 mana. And it has landfall. Landfall is one of the recurring mechanics in this set. If you'd call it that, there aren't really any mechanics in this set, but we'll touch on that later. So whenever a land ETB is under your control, you can return target non-land permanent from your graveyard to your hand. That's fantastic. It lets you regrow something in white, as long as it's not a land. But hey, this means you're at 8 mana, so you probably don't want a land anyways. But if the land that you played is a plains, you can return that permanent to the battlefield instead. So this is a angel that if you tap down, play this angel, and then start, like, fetch landing, you get to start returning shit to play, but it costs 7 mana. And it requires 8 mana to do anything, and then it requires planes for it to be really bonkers.
Yeah, there's a number of reasons why this card is a trap, and there's a number of reasons why this card is ineffective, but the most predominant reason is the fact that it's 7 mana. I'm sorry, if you're playing Highlander, you're not playing any 7 mana things, let alone a 7 mana thing that has a toughness and power of 4, and that doesn't protect itself.
I'll have you know, I play many 7-mana things and even 8-mana things, so I'd like it if you retract that statement.
I don't know.
I speak for all the players on Devastation as well.
I don't like this card. I think that the effect is very strong, but the CMC is very weak. And it doesn't have any protection. It doesn't have, like, Shroud, Hexproof, Indestructible, anything that would make it, like, sort of prime real estate for something like, for example, Reanimator, that generally want to play things that they can't just rev up into. So it doesn't meet those criterias. Power and toughness is very weak. CMC is very high. And its effect is reasonable. So I don't think this card's any good. I think this card's a trap.
Expedition Envoy. It's a 1-mana 2/1. It's an ally, but that won't... I hope that won't actually impact Highlander. I mean, if you're new to the format and you bring your allies deck, props. Thanks for coming, man. You're why we do this. But, like, you're playing this because it's a white 2/1, and I guess it's a human, so it also bumps up Champion of the Parish, which is nice and white weenie.
I love the quoted text on this. I love that this human scout ally, the 2/1, is ready for anything.
Except for Gut Shot. Just don't bring Gut Shot, or something with 3 toughness. This Expedition Envoy is not ready to deal with, like, Wall of Wood. Or anything like that. Like, I mean, he can crack into it. It's not doing anything. It's a white 1-drop with 2 power. That's it. Good card. Kitesail Scout. 10 out of 10. Best card in the set.
The pause.
Every time they fucking print these cards, I get so happy. I mean, so I have said that I love a variety of things on this series or other series. But really, if we're going back to my roots, I'm all about those Suntail Hawks. And this guy is just Suntail Hawk. He's a Suntail Hawk that you want at the core of your build, if you know what I'm saying.
The wind in one's hair, the sun on one's back, the joy of the open skies.
Yeah, this guy's just another thing to play, but maybe you really like Top Gun. So if you're Ranger of Eosing and you're, like, trying to find a flyer, you're like, okay, Judge is familiar, you're the best out of all of these, and, Lantern Calm or Kitesail Scout? Alright, Kitesail Scout.
Actually, I'd be very pleased if this guy's just referred to as Top Gun from now on.
He's Top Gun, alright. He's fucking Maverick.
Yeah, this guy definitely goes in, like, Flying Men, the deck, or probably in your White Wingy list because of the evasion. I don't know. I think this card is strong. I think these cards are strong generally, and they don't see enough play in Highlander. But you just fucking love your 1/1s for 1 with an evasive ability, eh? Holy smokes.
Kor Castigator. 1 and a white for a 3/1. Kor Wizard ally. None of that fucking matters. Kor Castigator can't be blocked by Eldrazi Scions. That probably doesn't matter. But, I mean, it's a positive. And this guy is just a 2-mana 3/1. That's it.
2-mana 3/1. 2-mana 3/1. Yes, we get another one.
I don't even want to, like... Yeah, I don't even want to spend much time talking about these guys, because every time they come out, I say, like, hey, they did it again. Play it if you're in that area. Fuck, cut the tape. Like, that's...
Yeah, Wizards throws a lot of love, like the White Weenie Trail way. Like, this, it's a 2-mana 3/1. Just play this card.
I like these guys in Boros. I've said that before. Your mana's shit in that deck anyways, and between red and white, you get a lot of 3 power for 2 mana, and you kill people quickly, you get blockers out of the way with your burn. Throw this guy in there, nothing else, moving on. Planar Outburst. 5 mana, it's a Wrath of God, but it doesn't destroy those pesky Stalking Stones. And then it has Awaken for 4. So Awaken is probably the closest thing to an actual mechanic in this set. You can cast this card for the alternate cost, the Awaken cost, which is 8 mana, and then you put 4+1 counters on a land, and it becomes a creature that's an elemental, and it gains haste in case you have 9 mana lying around. Basically, it's a Wrath of God that late game you can kind of get a bigger Stalking Stones out of it.
New mechanic alarm. Yeah, it's a new mechanic.
Yeah, it's a Wrath of God. 5 mana Wraths aren't really that great, but I think there's lists where you want to run like every Wrath or every like playable Wrath. And this one actually has an upside. I mean, end hostilities, it's nice that you can maybe kind of get rid of a Rancor or like a Sophie or something. Or Batterskull, that's also kind of spicy. But this one, late game again, you draw it, you get the Stalking Stones.
I agree. I think 5-mana Wraths are like not the best, but the nice thing about 5-mana Wraths is they generally come with an upside. This upside, not too bad. I don't mind it. I actually like the Awaken mechanic. To me, the Awaken mechanic is very vanilla. It's just like, oh, okay, that's nice. It actually is nice. It's just super basic. To me, it's like also sort of one that's I find kind of weird because it provides haste to lands that already probably have haste. I'm a bit confused as to why Wizards gave it haste. I think that's actually predominantly for new players. Maybe new players wouldn't realize when they had played a land. It just seems kind of like this really out-of-control cop-out that I'm not comfortable with.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Like you said, it just kind of feels like that Koth issue, where a lot of players that are new, I mean, sorry for the stereotype, but a lot of new players like to play mono red. And when Koth came out, well, Koth got into mono red, and there are a lot of players that are just like, Koth, animate this mountain, and then there was a lot of awkward, like, that's the mountain you played that turn.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's probably why they did this, just to make it so that people don't fuck up at a pre-release.
Yeah, it's just like idiot-proof, you know?
Welcome to new Magic. I don't know. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. And while it feels a little tacked on, it's not the end of the world to me.
I'd cushion Planar Outburst in the niche category.
Yeah, same here. Quarantine Field. Double X, white. Quarantine Field enters the battlefield with X isolation counters on it. When Quarantine Field enters the battlefield, for each isolation counter on it, exile up to one target non-land permanent an opponent controls until the field leaves the battlefield. Obviously, it's an enchantment, so it's like an Oblivion Ring that you can go bigger. At 4 mana, it's an Oblivion Ring. 6 mana, it hits 2 things, and so on and so on. I'm not a huge fan of this card in... Well, maybe it finds a home in blue-white control lists that have access to Enlightened Tutor, but to me this just feels like 2 things. 1, Enchantress. 2, you can find it with Muddle the Mixture, so if you're on like a combo, like an Enchantress combo variant, or something that has Muddle the Mixture, you can transmute for this, and that's kind of nice. But other than that, I mean, there's nothing really else there.
I like the fact that this is a mythic, and I feel like it should be a mythic, but in terms of its playability in Highlander, I think that it's very easy for someone to play this card and just get burnt up on the snapback with someone playing like Rex Sage. I'll just have all my shit back, thanks so much, swing for lethal. To me, Quarantine feels like a pretty large trap. 4 mana Oblivion Ring isn't good, and the upside isn't good enough to make it that great. There is a point, I think, to some degree, where you're running a Serra's Sanctum and you can make this pretty decently huge, and you already have some sort of lock mechanic in play, so that they can't get ya on the snapback. But I'm not buying it. I think Quarantine Field is a trap.
I'm with you on trap for anything except for Enchantress, where I think it's where it fits into that niche category.
That's about where I'd stretch to, but only there. Otherwise,
I'd love to be proven wrong, but again, get blown back by a Rex Sage just wrecking your day, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable being wrong on Quarantine Field. I don't think I am wrong, but yeah, I like I said, Serra's Sanctum. Yeah, comment, subscribe, Quarantine Field.
Just do the cheesy 16-year-old YouTuber thing. We're oh, what do you guys think? Put in the comments down below if you think Quarantine Field is playable. I want to get going. I want to get out of white.
Yeah, let's get out of white.
Serene Steward. 2 mana for a 2/2, human cleric ally. Hey guys, it's an ally. Whenever you gain life, you can pay 1 white. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. This card is probably just shit, but I have a soft spot for a white weenie build that is essentially a Soul Sisters deck.
That's a permanent counter, correct?
Yeah, permanent counter. It's basically when you gain life, you can a Johnny's Pride Mate for other people, but you have to pay white. That's it. If you're playing Soul Wardens and whatnot, play this guy. It's kind of neat that there are more and more cards for this. There are also an increasing number of clerics, so you can maybe have this kind of cool black-white cleric deck kicking around. Not sure how competitive it would be, but
that'd be fun.
I've seen more outlandish things win Highlander.
Is this something that it says whenever you gain life, you may pay 1? So if there's multiple instances of life gain, or is it just like you've gained life this turn?
If you gain 5 life, you can only pay 1 white. But if you say you have a Soul Warden and you play like a Lingering Souls and you gain 2 life, then you can pay 2 separate occurrences of white. Or, it's kind of neat, if you do have a Soul Warden in play or a similar effect, and you have 3 mana, you can play this, the Soul Warden triggers, and then you can pay white and then make something else bigger, or just make it a 3/3 if you need.
Yeah, nice. I don't know, it's just, it's very, 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 very vanilla, but I think you're right. Maybe it has a place in some sort of kind of fringier cleric list. That might be kind of cool. I guess just Jit looks nice with this card, right? Like, I don't know, you know?
I'd slap a GT on anything and call it a day, you know?
Yeah, fair.
Stasis Snare. 1 double white enchantment has flash. When it ETBs, exile a creature an opponent controls until Stasis Snare leaves the battlefield. So it's a Journey to Nowhere that costs 1 more white and you get flash. Enchantress is all I can think about. Enchantress is all I can think about for this entire set. Mostly for this card. And even then, I don't think it's that great.
It's specific. Flash is very strong, but I agree. Maybe it goes in Enchantress. I would slide this in, like, not playable to niche playable. I'm digging the art, though, where the dude's doing, like, the fucking, you know, like, duh, duh, duh. Yeah.
This isn't Disco Eldrazi. This is, like, all these allies have finally banded together, and they're like, we did it! We're all 2/1s, but we got rid of this 9/8.
Yeah, exactly. I would agree. This card is probably not playable, but if it is playable, it goes in Enchantress.
If it is a trap, I guess it's appropriate that, well, you know, it's a flash snare kind of card. Anyways, I'll show myself out and into blue. Eldrazi Skyspawner. 2 and a blue for a 2/1 flying. When Skyspawner ETBs, put a 1/1 Eldrazi Scion token into play that has sacrifice, add 1 to your mana pool, and then it has the mechanic that isn't a mechanic to void. So let's get over things for starters. We have allies, like Rally or whatever the mechanic is called, where like if an ally comes into play, everything happens. So
everything gets juicy.
Yeah, so they kind of like revisited the ally mechanic and made it more flexible. So that's boring as all hell to me.
So we have Converge.
Yep, Converge, which is Sunburst, but not on artifacts.
Yeah.
We have Awaken, which it's kind of cool, but I don't know how exciting it is.
Yeah, it's good. It's good for sure, but it's just not.
Yeah.
It's not like woo, you know.
We haven't gotten to, or no, we have done a card. We have Landfall, so that's something we've already seen.
Yeah.
And now we have Devoid, which is... we have another... There's another mechanic, but we're not there yet. We have Devoid. So this card has no color. That's it. Thank you. I do what I can. So where I'm looking for this card is going to be in like a Sea Stompy deck, because off Ancient Tomb and a Mox or Ancient Tomb Island, you get 3 power, 2 of it flies, 1 of it is a mana source. I like the Scion upgrade from the spawns. As someone that has played with a lot of Eldrazi spawn in Highlander, it's nice to see that they now have a power.
Yeah, and that's a recurring sort of effect, right? Like it used to produce 0/1s.
Yeah.
Back when Zendikar was a fresh block.
Yeah, in Rise of the Eldrazi, all those cards that produce things, Dest Invader, Kozilek's Predator, that kind of stuff, they were all 0/1s. And now they're 1/1s. And now they're not just... Like, now they're playable outside of green.
I don't hate that effect. I actually kind of have a bit of a soft spot in my heart for creating... it's just harkens back to that very much that Thrall effect of the Homelands era. But in this case, I think I would argue that this one, while it has Ancient Tomb mana, A, not an artifact, and B, it only has 2 power, so... and the 3rd power it creates is probably getting blocked, dying.
That's a little unfortunate. One of the best cards for commons for limited, though, surely. But we're not here for limited. We're here for Highlander. Yeah. I don't know. I think this guy falls in that niche category of it's evasion that's easy to cast. I mean, yeah, sure, you get this 1/1 that might get blocked, but it can also just help you get to 4 mana, because those decks really like to get a lot of mana quickly but not go beyond that point. And this lets you get to that like 4 mana, 5 mana slot for Precursor Golem or Lodestone, but you can still skip out on you can still miss your land drops, is where I'm getting with this. So I don't know. I have a soft spot for this guy.
I just want to focus a little bit on the art before we leave this card. I think this card is very flavorful in terms of the art. It's kind of cool. So they have the Skyspawner, which obviously is a flying Eldrazi, and then it has like this egg sac in the front of it. And I don't know about you, but I think this egg sac is going to burst, and this Eldrazi, colorless Eldrazi Scion is going to like fall to the ground from wherever the Skyspawner is. So from that perspective, it's like very efficient artwork. Like it feels like it's very much tied to the text of the card, which I always really appreciate.
We've exerted quite a lot of energy talking about a mere common when we should be talking about a card that will probably have some influence on your deck design choices. Ladies and gentlemen, Exert Influence. 4 colorless and a blue. It's got Converge. It's a sorcery. Gain control of target creature if its power is less than or equal to the number of colors spent to cast this card.
So maximum 5.
Yeah, maximum 5, gain control of a creature permanently. After the match, you get to take that thing home.
Yep, it's yours now. Tell your opponent to just like please just keep his or her hands off of your cards because you've exerted your influence for 5 mana, and it's now yours. Thanks for playing Highlander.
Where we play for keepsies and Auntie never died.
And Auntie never died.
Yeah. I like this card. I like it a lot. It's a control magic effect that costs 5 mana, but that's what we're expected to see nowadays. And you get to keep it permanently. Like that doesn't happen every single day. Yeah. That said, you need 4 mana is what I'd say. Like I can't think of anything that has just flat 5 power that you're going to be exert influence. Like there's not really a creature. Oh yeah, Thragtusk. Yeah, but then you're against a deck with Thragtusk, so you've already won, right?
Yeah.
But exert influence, getting to keep it permanently. I like that this kind of slides into that bribery slot for like a 5-color Sorensen list. Because bribery waxes and wanes in playability, where depending on how many big dumb idiot creatures are running around. But this thing, like even if you're just playing it and getting what they have, that's not the worst. Is it better than bribery though? I don't think it is.
I don't think so.
So then maybe I'm just contradicting myself. I'm a little confused. Converge is hard for me to grasp, especially for something like this. For the other cards that we'll end up touching on, it's a lot easier because their effects are like you draw this many cards or you deal that much damage.
I think that this card is fine. I think that there's a lot of creatures with power that is sort of like 3, 2, or even sometimes 1 that you want. So I think Exert Influence is fine in that regard. Cards that have over 5 power are often a huge problem, in which case, as a blue deck, you're probably not needing to exert your influence in that regard. So I think overall this card is very slow. It's very control-based, but it might actually just swing games, I don't know, for 2. I like this card at 2 or 3 or something like that,
Even at 3, like, to me, it's playable. The biggest thing, again, they can disrupt it. You get that thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I think that this card I would slide this into the niche playable category.
Part the Waterfall. 6 mana, Time Walk, exile this card, awaken for 9 mana. You're going to be playing this card in the I want every Time Walk I can get deck. That's it. I mean, maybe you'll play it if you don't have access to Capture or Temporal Manipulation, and you want to play a deck with a bunch of Time Walks. This could be the mono blue Time Walk deck with Panoptic Mirror combo. This could be like a Turbo Land deck or a Heartbeat deck. 6 mana is a little iffy, but again, like they've recognized, well, we can't charge them 2 mana, that's a little stupid. We can't even charge them 5 mana, that's a little too good. So let's go to 6. And here we are. The Awaken's a nice feature, really big. So like in a control deck like Seinfeld or something, if you're playing this, you tap out for 9, take your extra turn, have your 6/6, and then you just start getting to beat face.
I think an Academy list, like you were saying, with every Time Walk imaginable runs this deck list. Runs this card in that deck list. And it just also has the upside of being able to win you the game as well as you winning the game. But it has to go in a Academy list, for sure.
Well, I don't know if it has to go in Academy. Like, again, blue-green. Like, I'm not running Academy alongside, like, Cultivates and Into the North. But I think it's at its best in an Academy list, for sure.
If you're tapping out for this, because it's 6 mana. So, like, if you're tapping out in a blue list...
Well, I mean, like, if you're paying 3 for a Heartbeat of Spring and then casting this... That's not the worst. That's 6 mana right there. I'm comfortable doing that.
That's actually a fair point. Okay, I'm comfortable parting the Water Veil.
Oh, what are we doing here? We're moving on to the most controversial... We're moving on to the most controversial card of the set.
Prism shit!
Yeah, Prism Array. 4 and a blue. Enchantment. Converge.
Liquid crystal, dude.
This is the liquid crystal fucking... enchantment. You remove a crystal counter from Prism Array, you tap a creature, and then it has Wooburg Scry 3. I have gotten so much shit about liking this card.
Oh, yeah, you have.
Yeah, I've been fucking bullied by the community for liking this card.
I love the fact that they set this card up CMC-wise to be Wooburg, though, so that they're like, yeah, we're making this Wooburg, and then they, like, made it 5 mana. It's just, like, so ridiculous.
This is like a card that Maro would be like, oh, and spoiler, we're coming out with an enchantment similar to a card you may be familiar from Nemesis in blue, or that was in white, that now just deals with creatures. And it's mono blue. And they're like, oh my god. And then here we are.
Wizards, do we get Parallax Wave again? And Maro's like ticking his fingers like, nah, you get Liquid Crystal Prism Array. He's like pelvic thrusting as he's doing so.
I don't want to picture
this card is
Maro
ridiculous.
Pelvic thrusting.
I just did it.
Anyways, so a lot of people hate this card. I really like this card. I don't think this card's as good as, I think if you scaled out how much I like this card to how playable it is, it's not going to even out that well. But I think there's a home for this card. I think there are multiple homes for this card. And where you might want to give this a shot, the Scry ability is something you're looking for. So I'm thinking 5-color stacks, because usually you only want to deal with one of their creatures anyways. Like, you're not getting swarmed out in that matchup because you have Wrath of Gods and Wildfires and whatnot. This is just for those pesky little cards that manage to get around that, and you just need to, just chill out for a bit, wait until you get your... I wasn't going for that joke.
I think that I honestly... here's my joke to do with Prism Array. Like, the kind of magic, the kind of slow magic that you want to be playing with Prism Array, you could actually probably watch crystals grow faster than you can play Prism Array.
Crystals form.
Yeah, that's how slow this card wants to play. Which is fine. I'm into that.
But hear me out. So, and if I had a nickel for every time I've said, but hear me out, when trying to talk to somebody about this. So if you're playing this in a stacks list, giving it a shot, I'm not saying it gets front row tickets to that matchup. I'm just saying you're trying it out. You're just, slowing down that Emrakul they got, You're kind of making it so that Goyf doesn't kill you because it's got 5 toughness and Wildfire ain't cutting it. You don't have a lot of spot removal in those decks. And you know what? Those decks have a tendency to just draw hands where you're all mana, no gas. And you know what can help that out? Scrying at them. Because you don't have to pay mana to remove the counters. Instead, that mana can go to good causes like Scrying 3 and finding your Ugin or your Karn or whatever high-end curve card that you want to have to just end the game already.
Realistically speaking, I think the Scry is actually the part of this card that makes the most sense. And I'm going to back that up because, we've already established that Prism Array, the liquid crystal, goes in the slowest goddamn deck imaginable. So we want to be running it in those stacks lists. Those stack lists are running, all the talismans, a bunch of the signets. It's running the lantern or whatever that makes your lands every color. So the Scry 3, the Wooburg thing, man, isn't even the biggest deal on this card, and then the rest of it's upside from there. So.
I don't know if I'm getting trolled, but
it's a little bit of troll, but it's also a little bit of serious.
I think this card is you don't go into the game with this card thinking it's the best card in your deck. Don't put this on a pedestal. But if it's good, great, it's great. If it doesn't exactly do what you want, well, maybe it's not for you. Maybe the card's not as good as we thought, or maybe the card isn't playable. But damn it, I think it's playable. I think it's fine. And I'm going to stick to that.
Don't give this crystal to your honey, you know?
But I want to get
this crystal on your bedside table.
Oh fuck! And the next card is also a card that is like a blue enchantment that doesn't really do anything. That I haven't gotten shit for this because I haven't professed how much I enjoy this card. But Retreat to Coralhelm, 2 and a blue enchantment. It has landfall. It's a part of this cycle. It says whenever a land ETBs, you get to pick one. You either get to tap or untap a creature, so that's cool, or you get to scry one, so that's also kind of cool. So where I want to play this card is in the Amulet Bloom Highlander combo deck that we've talked about before, that we'll show people once I move to Victoria, which is very soon after this video gets released. Jesus Christ. Anyways, you get your Retreat to Coralhelm. You get like your Simic Growth Chamber or whatever, it doesn't even matter. And then you get either Sakura Tribe Scout, Badoka Gardener, or Sky Shroud Ranger. They all are creatures that 2 of them cost 1 mana, 1 of them costs 2 mana, that they tap to put a land from your hand into play. So that's the core. You tap one of your dudes, you put a bounce land into play. The Retreat to Coralhelm triggers, untapping your dude, and you return the bounce land to your hand. You get to keep doing that. And then, you get to make your own fucking pizza pie. Do you want to gain infinite life? Do you want to make them lose infinite life or mill them out? Do you want to generate infinite mana with...
Yeah, what do you like on your pizza pie, Ben?
I get greedy, Adam. I like every fucking thing. But you know what? I'm not picky. I'll take either, piece. I'll take the infinite mana and try to work with it. Gaining infinite life, that's pretty good. They don't even have a Jace in their deck. This card, I really like this card. It screams out synergy and combo, and there's a place for it, but the deck isn't exactly, winning any tournaments or even showing up at this point. But can confirm, have played this deck against living human crystal beings, and have won with this deck. And I'm certainly slapping this in.
Judge, can I get some crystal counters over here, please? 3 CMC is insane. Landfall is insane. Tap or untap target creature is really good. Scry's groovy. I don't know, throw this in stasis, too. Untapping target creatures is relevant. Like, you already said you can make infinite combos with this. No, this card is, definitely slides into 100% for sure playable. It's groovy.
Well, even slamming it down in these decks that are looking to abuse them, you can play this the fair way with, fetch lands, which you're going to be running quite a few of, and that you can stem the bleeding until you get your combo pieces, right? By cracking them on their combat and tapping down their things, or playing out your land, just turning all your lands into scry lands. That's fantastic.
I've actually been very impressed with the retreats so far.
They're kind of nice. I mean, on first glance, I was like, okay, limited. And even then, I don't know if I'd play them because they don't impact the battlefield right away. But that's a different plate of cookies for another glass of milk. But the ones that we're covering in this certainly have applications. Narrow, for sure, but they've got applications.
Certainly.
Let's retreat to the next card on the list, because I've had enough of your bullying, Adam, so I'm going to give you something, I'm going to throw something your way. We got Ruination Guide. 2 and a blue for a 3/2, devoid, so it's colorless. Oh, I forgot about this mechanic, Ingest. So when this deals combat damage to a player, they exile the top card of his or her library. So
whoopsie frickin' do.
Nice personal tutor, idiot.
Yeah.
That doesn't really do anything. I mean, maybe you just... There's a chance that if you have an ingest creature and you end up cracking it against a combo list that needs very specific pieces, you can muck them, but that's Magical Christmas Land. Why you're playing this is because for 2 colorless and 1 colored mana that's blue, pretty good for what's that permanent type? that works really well with blue. Is it artifacts? Okay, cool, it's artifacts. And this is a 3/2 that gives other colorless creatures you control +1/+0. Artifact creatures are usually colorless. I mean, there's a couple of blue ones, some white ones. You know, they've spread out a bit, but usually they're colorless. So I like this guy in like an aggressive sea stompy list, not one that looks to take to the skies, but rather play out like Phyrexian Ironfoots and whatnot, like a Battle Pots. This guy, to me, I'd want to play him in Battle Pots. And I think this is where we're divided on that deck list, but also probably just this card.
I agree. I think it goes in Artifact aggro really quickly. It's castable off of Ancient Tomb plus Mox. It also has power equivalent to its CMC, which is like huge for that deck list. So that's just like the very first thing I looked at. I was like, yeah, 3 CMC, nice. All right, it's 3 power, good. That probably goes in that deck list. And then it actually just provides like a Lord function for the rest of your guys. So play out your Ramrollers, play out your Porcelain Legionnaires, or whatever the hell you're running in that deck list, and make them bigger. That's good. Ingest. No, I think we're done talking about this card.
It doesn't make your Porcelain Legionnaire big because unfortunately that guy's white, even though he's probably been cast in more non-white decks than white decks.
Oh, yeah, my apologies. Okay, I was thinking of, like, artifacts there for a second. Second thought, I changed my mind.
This isn't Hidden Gems. I don't have a buzzer. This is all just, like, doing it live sort of situation.
Okay,
but,
can we maybe actually dial it back then? Because there is a lot of cards in artifact aggro that are colored, now that I think about it.
But I still think this guy's fine. Like, there are a lot of colored... I'll agree with you on that. But, like, there's only about 6 of them or 7 of them that are, like, actually worth considering. Being able to bump up your really shitty pieces of the puzzle that you're playing because they're artifacts. Like, being able to make your Arcbound Worker bigger, or your Brass Man, your Brass Gnat. Making your Ravager bigger, even. Steel Overseer. Like, those things, or your Manlands. That's super cool. Like, your Manlands get bigger from this guy. And just having that, and having, like, his power be according to his CMC, like, I think it's worth considering him.
Yeah, okay. I'm on board with this guy. I think I would slide this in the niche to playable range.
Yeah. Let's hope he guides our way to a more playable card, but instead we have Scatter the Winds, or Scatter to the Winds. 1 and double blue, instant, counter a spell, and then it has Awaken 3 for 6 mana total. There are a lot of counter spells out there. What I want to know, is this better than Absorb? Is this better than Dissolve? Or not Dissolve, Dissipate.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of 3 mana counter spells that still see play by control decks. And, like, is the Dissipate removal going to be that huge? Or, like, how is... Absorb gains you life in the aggro matchup, sure, but, like, 3 mana counter spells aren't where you want to be in that matchup.
To me, I think that this card needed to have Awaken 4 to be playable in Highlander. Because you're probably running this in Seinfeld or a white-blue control list. In which case, I think Awaken 3 isn't quite going to cut it. Awaken 4 might have, like, in my opinion, made this card, like, actually kind of the stone cold nut. But 3 holds that back. I don't think you're casting this 3 mana counterspell to counter a spell. I think you're casting it for 6 mana. And I think you're casting it late game. Like, I think if you see this in your opening hand, you're not loving it. And I think if you're like 6, maybe like 3 or 4 turns into the game or something like that, you're probably scrying this to the bottom of your deck. But later on, if this had Awaken 4 on it, and had it been 6 mana, I think you would have loved to see this. But 3 holds this card back too much, in my opinion.
I mean, to me, this shares similarities with, like, Into the Royal, where paying 2 mana to disperse something, like, I don't want to boomerang something for 2 mana. Like, that's... I mean, it's worse than Boomerang. It's, as I said, Disperse. Like, to me, Into the Royal is always like a 4 mana card. It's a 2 mana card in a pinch. But for 4 mana, like, yeah, I'll Cryptic Command your shit. And then Scatter the Winds is this, like, I don't want to pay 3 mana to counter a spell, but if I have to and it's on curve, I'm going to use my mana to do it. And then you have, like, the Awaken where you really want to be, but then you're also just passing the turn with 6 mana up, which I guess is not the worst for a lot of control decks, because you can Opportunity, you can Sphinx's Rev, you can set up an Enlightened Tutor or a Mystical with counter backup. But yeah, getting a 3/3, like getting something that just dies to every burn spell in the format, I don't know how I feel about that.
I think this card's a Mega Trap.
Mega Trap. Mega Traps are worse than traps.
Okay, I think this card's a trap, not a Mega Trap. I'm sure there'll be a Mega Trap somewhere around here.
Oh,
but
don't worry.
I think that, like, I don't have a ton of experience playing like sort of higher CMC counter spells. And while this is a hard counter, I just don't think it makes the cut. Like, it's a cancel, and then it's Awaken for 6 is just like not good enough.
Look, the only 3-mana counterspell in my eyes is Forbid.
Yeah, totally.
And maybe Complicate, but I mean, that's just my cycling adoration. But like, I don't like the other 3-mana counterspells. There's 1, there's 2, and then there's 4 and 5 for Force of Will, which is essentially 0. Yeah, I think this card's a trap, so I'm with you on that. Thank you for watching, and if you like that, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more hidden gems, set reviews, deck techs, and much more. Also, be sure to follow our Canadian Highlander Facebook page, and check out our newly updated website at canadianhighlander.wordpress.com. Links for our various podcasts will also be included in the description below. Thanks again, and feel free to leave any questions, comments, or concerns, and one of the council members will be sure to answer as best as they can. And remember, folks, there can be only one.